We're going to start. We're going to start with Howard Marshall, Dr. Howard Rusty Marshall, a.k.a. Professor Emeritus, a former member of the, he was a former 69er, I think. Is that right? The 69er string band. Featured on the Joint Effort album, of which our lovely Lynn Wolds is holding 3 copies dangerously close to the ceiling fan.
What did that mean,
Yeah.
joint effort? I never understood.
Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. All right. Well, Howard has become is a well-known expert on Missouri fiddling and a fine player.
Easy.
Many for years. Please welcome Rusty Marshall. Introduce the band, Howard.
Oh, thank you. I might. Actually, it is the 69er string band.
Well,
Almost.
Mr. DeMayer is not.
Doug is absent, but
This could be a
Jimmy was still in high school at the time, and he had a little bit of trouble getting out at night. But let me.
yeah. Well, okay. Let's switch these.
Lee just got here, so we'll. Anyhow, I'm not going to tell any stories at all about the Chez, except I had a good time here back in the 60s. And all I can say is that I had just been in the military. Anybody here in the 60s in the military? It's kind of a strange time in our history. It reminds me a little bit of now in certain ways, except I had real short hair when I got out, but I played music, and everybody thought I was, you remember the term narc? I could walk in the Ivanhoe with my mandolin case and people would go out the windows, you know. And I don't think I ever did, but really, guys, those of you who were there, I was not a narc, just a veteran, you know, with short hair.
You never knocked on me.
I never knocked on We don't know.
They just dropped the charges.
I was just playing mandolin at that time, and we were playing a lot of bluegrass music in those days, and Jimmy and Lee and I and another banjo player named Doug DeMayer, who was in engineering school, and played in here many times, had a lot of fun here. So obviously I'm not playing the mandolin. I don't really sing that high Monroe tenor anymore. Something happened a few years ago that took that tenor away from me. So I just play the fiddle now, and so we're going to play a few fiddle tunes that most of us learned from one of the great legends of Missouri fiddling who lived here in Columbia, a few blocks from here, Taylor McBain. A great human being, and he was quite a character too. And after he met Kathy, I think you guys actually brought him to play in the Chez. But when I was here in the 60s, there was no fiddling. Everybody just wanted to play like Bonnie and Clyde. So real loud bluegrass banjo was the dominant thing that most people, you know. Yeah, in 11th grade, Jimmy had that all figured out. And thank goodness we've all moved on somewhere else since then. But we'll just play some tunes to try to remember Taylor McBain and Cleo Persinger, who was one of the first fiddle players that I was around here in Columbia, who really made me want to play the fiddle. And these were tunes that these guys played in that generation. So we'll just start off, play a little bit of Turkey in the Straw. Thank you.
Well, this was always a better room than just about any bar in town, and and it was also a friendlier crowd. Usually, than you'd have in a bar, more attentive, and also there's this mix of musicians in and out of here, and then mostly in for quite a number of years, where you have many resident musicians here. There wouldn't be possible to come in here and then not be at least a few musicians around. So there was always a chance of some musical give and take, conversation or music or whatever. I never even questioned that this was even though I was trying to make some sort of a living playing, that playing here and not making any money was just as good or better than going out and playing in the loading zone or someplace and making $25. And there were occasional opportunities to make a small amount of money here. I can remember the first time I walked into this place. It was the beginning of a new school year in Columbia, a new semester, and it was probably about the third or the fourth week of September. The university was a week or two, and somebody said, "There's a new coffee house just opened over on Hitt Street." And so probably a week or two after I heard that word, it was still September, I think, I came wandering in. The stage was down there in front of the fireplace at that time. This was September 1964. I came in the door there, and there were two guys down there, a kind of a tall, thin guy playing the banjo, and a kind of a tall, burly fella playing the guitar. And it turned out to be Dan Peake and Jerome Wheeler. First time I'd ever laid eyes on them, and they ended up being longtime musical friends. And until a couple years ago, I was playing with them, the band. Well, enough talk. I need to play through my 3 songs and get out of the way let's do this song called Public Domain, which kind of encapsulates the whole thing of playing old songs and trying to make up new songs. The fact that I'm tuning right now means that I played those last 3 tunes out of tune. Sorry. This is called Public Domain. I love to sing the old songs of the places I ain't been, of the folks I didn't know, friends and lovers come and go. High and hard times I ain't had here at home and on the road. And all these songs are my songs and your songs, ain't it so? So wild the way that the wildwood flowers grow. Public domain, public domain. The cricket, bird, and bee songs are public domain. So much singing inspiration comes from those who've gone before and had a song to share, be it wise or foolish, false or fair. And it seems like every day there's more songs hanging out here, more than all the song peddlers can take down to the store. And it's wild the way that the rippling waters flow. Public domain, public domain. Even the Beatles are public domain. How many old songs will you sing before you know it's true? You make your own song, from an old song comes a new. You have a window with a shutter and a view, singularly seen by you. Go out and sing your own songs and bring it back on through. Public domain, public domain. Only a secret isn't public domain. Public domain, public domain. This land is our land. Public domain, public domain, public domain. If it's blowing in the wind, it's public domain. Public domain, public domain. Yodelay-hoo, public domain. Thank you.
This reunion is in conjunction with the annual meeting of the Missouri Folklore Society. That meeting is now over as of this noon today. But if you're interested in the Folklore Society, which was started 100 years ago this year and 30 years ago was revived after it had slumbered for some decades, revived by Adolph and Becky Schrader here in Columbia, who are still with us and still remain the leaders in their in many ways of the society. And it's a good group of folks mixing non-academic people with academic people, and we celebrate and discuss and study topics of folkloric nature. Yes, Lee Ruth has been here. I remember this. I always had to bring down the microphone after Lee had played. Well, one of the members of our Folklore Society is our friend Knox McCrory, who I'm not sure, had you played here before?
Yes, I think I had a few times, but I'm of a different generation than most of you folks. You might be able to figure that out. But I did play down here a few times. At least I have one witness said they saw me down here. I wouldn't bet the ranch on it, but
Many of us come to the Chez worrying about witnesses of our past, but we seem to have survived it so far.
well, I thought I'd throw that in so I wouldn't get thrown out. May yet get thrown out. We're going to do Golden Slippers, G. George.
First coffee house I ever sang at was in Bloomington, Indiana in 1958. Thank you. It's called The Quiet Answer. I always loved that name. It's because nobody came. No, it's not. And there's at least one witness here who says I have been here to the Chez. Les Chez. First time I came to this great city was 1973. I've been here a few times. I'll do a song I learned from Bruce Buckley around 1960 in Bloomington, but it's from the Vance Randolph collection, so it's either from Missouri or close to it. And actually, it's from the 1890s when some songwriter got so disgusted with all those sentimental songs that were being written, half of them about the Civil War, which was over for a number of years, about the poor guy going off to war, leaving his sweetheart behind and dying. And, yeah, he wrote the Civil War song to end Civil War songs. Something like this. A soldier kissed his weeping wife, he was going off to war. The tears were trickling down the cheeks of the one he did adore. Be faithful, pet, my own sweetheart, my own dear love, he cried. But at the Battle of Bull Run, he like a soldier died. And he never came back, he never came back. His dear face she never more saw. How happy she'll be, his sweet face to see, when they meet on that beautiful shore. I went into a restaurant as hungry as a bear. Like a raving maniac I ordered the bill of fare. The waiter said, "What will you have?" "Give me a steak," I say. He took my order, bowed his head, and slowly walked away. And he never came back, he never came back. I waited an hour or more. His neck I will break if he ain't got my steak when we meet on that beautiful shore. And so on and so forth.
I came here as a Fulbright scholar by invitation of Professor Louis Walker from Department of Electrical Engineering from University of Missouri. And first year I took a residence in the student dorms close to medical school, and I had great time. But after that I met very pious professor, Dr. Tudor, in my department, who put me to live in the First Baptist Church just around the corner. And I enjoyed there with a couple of other students doing little chores and having a great time. But unavoidably, I was walking nearby and I noticed the existence of this holy place. And I was curious. I was pretty much involved in my research and writing dissertation. I did not have time to go to the bars because I'm typical nerd. You have to be that unless if you want to be electrical engineer. So bars were not appealing to me, and anything else that is pretty popular among the young people of the college age. So I was thinking about what kind of place is this. I hear quite often in the evening when I was coming back from my lab late work towards the church where I used to sleep. I hear the music, and the music was very strange to me. The rhythm and pace and the noise of people caught me by surprise. So one day I decided to stop by and see what is going on. And so I discovered the Chez, but I didn't know anybody at that time. The pressure of the studies and writing dissertation were very high, and I was more dedicated to that than anything else. But at the same time, I'm a human being. I'm curious by definition. And I decided to hang around a little bit more often than I was expected to. I used to stand there where that gentleman is standing at the door. I was kind of shy to be part of the crowd, which was new to me at that time. And finally, I broke the ice, and I took first coffee and tea, and was kind of different. It was nice. But going back to the first time when I came to Missouri, I would like to share the first impression which I got about Columbia, Missouri. I flew all the way from Europe to St. Louis and took the Greyhound bus from airport to Columbia here. And it was a beautiful, snowless January day. And there were only a few passengers in the Greyhound bus. I was sitting next to the bus driver talking to him at that time the best I could fluently. He was enthused with my accent and other things that I was doing linguistically. So finally, we were approaching the Greyhound bus station. I was looking all around, being impressed with the brick-type buildings, which was material for me unknown in the big cities of Belgrade, where I came from. And one thing that is still lingering in my memory, there was a pedestrian crossing, but there was a description there, PED crossing, cross, okay? And I looked at that and I broke in a hilarious laughter. And the driver looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "What a place." He said, "What do you mean, what a place?" PED means in slang, in Serbian language, homosexuals are crossing. I said, "Well, great." What a place I got to study.
Do the Mississippi Sawyer, D-Dog.
I was a Stevens student, 67 to 70, and did something not very smart, so I got into trouble and got grounded at school. You know, they wanted to keep a tight rein on the girls. And I was a music major, and I said, "Yes, but I have this major concert to perform. You have to let me out." And they had no idea was to come here and play bass at the Chez. And that was I got out to play every week to come to the Chez, only because I convinced them it was very serious. This is a song from Ian and Sylvia. I didn't know who they were. I was playing here at the Chez, and I thought, oh, that's kind of a nice group. I wonder where they're from. And they were singing about Alberta. Never heard of Alberta until I got to Canada, and there it was. So, and subsequently, I also own an entertainment agency, and I've been fortunate to work with Sylvia Tyson. So I'm going to do that. Four strong winds that blow lonely, you know it. 7 seas that run dry. All those things that don't change, come what may. But our good times are all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if you ever come this way. I think I'll go out to Alberta. Weather's good there in the fall. Got some friends that I could go to working for. Still, I wish you'd change your mind if I ask you one more time. But we've been through that 1,000 times or more. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. But our good times are all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if you ever get this way. If you get there before the snow flies, and if things are looking good, you could meet me if I send you down the fair. But by then it would be winter, not too much for us to do. And the wind, it sure blows cold way out there. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. But our good times are all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if you ever get this way. One more time, sing with me. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All those things that don't change, come what may. But our good times are all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if you ever get this way.
Anyway, fancy one. Thank you.
The episode that I remember when I was sharing the space with David, at that time, the feelings between Kathy and Dave were evolving pretty strongly, and I was joking most of the time that my roommate, I usually used to introduce myself as I'm roommate of Dave Parra because everybody knew him. So it was very great, and I got through very nicely with that. I did not need to repeat the story, who I am, where I'm coming from, what I'm doing, stuff like that. So it was enough. But one of the most memorable things was, I still remember Kathy's mother while we were in the church, First Baptist Church there I used to frequent their Sunday services. She knew that I was living with Dave, and she came to me after the service, and we talked, and she asked me about little things. And at that time, she was not very, very enthusiastic about that relationship. I never told that story to David. I never told that story to Kathy, but this is the right moment. And she said, Miro, I consider you as a very serious person. I was kind of flattered with that. And she said, what do you think about Dave Parra? And I said, if I were to have a brother, I would love him to be my brother. And I think that won the day, and she ever since blessed that relationship.
Well, Kathy and I met here. We've had some remembrance sessions. There are a number of couples that managed to meet here and go on to be couples, and so it's an important part. Also, playing here is, I think, is a permanent part of how Kathy and I play and sing. I think there are echoes of this room that are always in the music we sing, and we seem to do better in situations that seem to be most like this. Even though the coffee is a little more expensive, but still.
Some of my favorite musical memories are playing in this place, and it's getting us both pretty emotional to see this again and see how many people have come out to support this. You know, thank you all very much, and it's really nice that you did this. And I'd like to thank somebody that's been doing a lot of sound here for us this whole day, and in fact this whole evening. Sam Griffin down here used to record us long ago. He's doing a good job.
Sam used to disparage the poor sound equipment we used to have here. It was by hook or by crook. It seemed we had sound reinforcement. We were trying to figure out where the speakers used to be in this room. I think there used to be one in that corner on the shelf. On the counter, I think. Yeah, so there was it was always something to have him here. I think I've already talked about some of the memories we've had. Do you want to start with the Rattlesnake? We'll sing a song from the Ozarks. It's actually an old song in America. Some people think it's the oldest ballad native to America. It's a song about a guy who goes to mow his meadow and is bit by a rattlesnake and dies. And back in the 1760s, that was a pretty tragic song. And then about 30, 40, or 50 years later, in the early 1800s, the song managed to change itself into a comedy number for the American stage. It's a process
we don't know.
I still can't quite understand if somehow rattlesnake bites weren't serious anymore and they were sort of entertaining, or maybe it was the song itself that lent itself to parodies. I don't know. And then throughout the United States, there are versions of both the serious version and the comic version, and this is one of the comic versions, even though it's not particularly comical, but we like to sing it anyway.
We got this from a woman named Noble Cowden down in Cave City, Arkansas. Actually, it's through hearing musicians at the Chez that I got interested in learning songs from musicians around the country, and it was people like Joe Hickerson's music and folks like Bob Dyer who wrote great songs. You know, all these people really touched my life. So this is kind of an amazing thing right now to see everybody here together. So this, the Rattlesnake song, and then I'm going to run it into a little bit of a tune called Speed the Plow. Yes, Lee Ruth gave me my first banjo lessons. I remember Lee trying dutifully to teach me, and he would write out a tablature, and I'd, you know, take it home, and I'd come back in a week, and I'd play it, and he'd go, well, that's okay, but it's not what I wrote down. And he was very patient, anyway. So.
Johnny dear, don't you go down to the meadow for to mow. Right ting-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. Oh, Molly dear, don't you know it's Papa's meadow and it's gotta be mowed. Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. Rattlesnake bit him on the heel. Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. They carried him home to Molly dear. Don't you know she felt right queer? Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. Come all you friends, a warning take. Don't ever be bit by a rattler snake. Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. For if you do, I'm telling you, lots of bad trouble you'll get into. Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day. Right ting-a-ling day, right ting-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling day.
Thank you.
Now, most people don't know this, but I'm a singer-songwriter. I've been writing songs for years, at an average about 1 or 2 verses a year. And I finally came up with my verse of this year. It was on the day of my 71st birthday, which was October 20th. And I thought I might just throw this in. This doesn't count as one of the songs. This is a segue, I guess. Because we've been celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, 100th anniversary of the Missouri Folklore Society, which happened to take a nap for a few decades, but still, 100 years old. I'm not that old. But anyway, here's a birthday verse of a well-known song. Speaking of Oh Brother, it was in there, the original. Oh, life. Oh, life, I made it over to another year. Thank God. Speaking of oral, we're doing oral history. Speaking of folklore, this word has this song has the word oral in it, sort of twice. Also, there's a little descriptive part that I have to tell you about in it, and that will hark on those of you who studied folklore at Indiana University, or maybe anywhere else. You might find a phrase that I use that resonates with the title and subtitle of a basic textbook in folklore that we used at least in the 1950s at Indiana University, maybe, I don't know how far into the 60s. It's a lullaby written by a friend of mine named Michael Smith, who came to Indiana as a graduate student in fine arts and taught for many, many years at Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, outside of St. Louis, and passed away just about a year ago from Parkinson's disease. He wrote this as a lullaby. He wrote it as 2 verses. And I used to sing it and then have people repeat the first verse as a chorus, and then it was over. But one day I got an invite to go up to Burlington, Vermont to do, from a former intern. She was up there. She wanted to organize a concert, have me do a concert in Burlington. And my son was going to school there, University of Vermont, briefly. You ever been to Burlington? They used to have a socialist mayor. Actually, he's a senator now. Burlington's the only place I've ever been that we go to a store and buy factory seconds of Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Well, I got a phone call before the concert. I was there in the Folk Archive, Library of Congress, and there was a reporter from the Burlington Free Press. And she interviewed me, and she said, "What kind of folk songs do you sing?" And I hadn't invented the appellation yet of vintage, pre-plugged, paleo-acoustic folk singer. And if I have to explain any of that to you, you wouldn't be interested. I said, I sing folk songs and allied forms in the English language that I like and can remember. And she said, do you sing children's songs? I said, I like to sing children's songs if children are there. And I said, boldly, and a very small children, like we children, I might sing the diaper song. That's a song by Mike Smith, the lullaby. She said, oh, we already have a diaper song up here. I tried to maintain my cool. I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, there's a woman near here in Williston who is marketing a diaper with a device in it. When the diaper gets wet, it plays a tune. Thinking to myself, what, it ain't gonna rain no more? How dry I am. I said, what's the tune? She says, well, actually, we're having an argument about that in our office. Maybe you can help. Reference librarian to the rescue. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, some say it's Love Me Tender, and some say it's Orally. Da 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 da, same tune. To put it in a nutshell, if you want to avoid copyright, it's Orally. Okay. So it took me 26 hours to fly from Washington, D.C. to Burlington because we were socked in by fog overnight in Boston. That was enough time for me to write my verse of that year, the 3rd verse of the diaper song. So here we go. Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color? Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow hue? Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color and green when the baby comes down with the flu? We try to line them with paper towels to catch the nasties when he moved his bowels. But we soon discovered that it just wouldn't do. He screamed and he squirmed and they shot clear on through. So once again, let's do the first verse correctly. I messed up on one line. Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color, golden hue? Why don't they make diapers of a light golden hue? Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color and green when the baby comes down with the flu? Charleston city, they'll play you a ditty. When nappy gets crappy or yucky or stamp, singing orally, orally, tender me love. But oral turns anal when push comes to shove. Once again, everyone, why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color, golden hue? Why don't they make diapers of a light golden hue? Why don't they make diapers of a light yellow color and green when the baby comes down with the flu?
Okay, one of the things that was brought up was back in about 68 or 69. And if you remember, then you must not have been there, I guess. Okay. So the Chez Coffee House was in a competition, because they were having competitions for coffee houses in America. I don't know if they had to do the 100-yard dash, or I don't exactly know. But the Chez Coffee House was a finalist of 4. And did it win? Did it win? Yes. It won the best coffee house in America in 1969. By the time I moved in, it was... So, and actually one of the representatives who went there was Spencer Galloway, a resident here at the Chez. And Spencer was on the album, the Joint Effort album that was produced in 68 because they weren't really sure if the music was ever going to happen the following year, so they decided to do an album. So if you'll welcome Spencer Galloway, a fine singer and player. It'd be great to have him.
I came here in about 1968 and moved in 69, I think. I lived in the first room on the left over there. And we had a kitchen, and we shared meals. To give you an idea how long ago this was, we threw $5 a piece into the kitty, and we'd eat for a week on that. We'd have dinner every night, and sandwiches in the day, though they'd get kind of scare us by Wednesday. But we'd go all over town to get the best deals and go to Wilson's Wholesale Meats and buy bulk fish and everything. I remember Bobby one time got the fish, and we went somewhere and he said, well, somebody will steal that fish, so I better lock the car. And we said, no, don't lock the car. Just put it under the seat. Well, come Friday, where is that fish? It ruined a good 57 Ford. Here's a tune I used to play about that time. Me and my uncle went riding down from Colorado, West Texas bound. We stopped off in Santa Fe. It'd be in the park, just about halfway. And besides, it was the hottest part of the day. We hitched a pony into a stall, went to the bar room, bought drinks for all. 8 days in the saddle, my body hurt. Being summer, took off my shirt, and I tried to wash off some of the Texas dirt. West Texas cowhands all over town. With gold and silver, they're loaded down. Just back from the roundup, ain't it a shame? So now Uncle starts a friendly game, just friendly boys, with high-low jack and the winner takes the game. Now from the beginning, Uncle starts to win. Them Texas cowhands, they're mad as sin. Says he's a cheatin', that can't be. My uncle, he's honest as honest as me. And I'm about as honest as a Kansas City man can be. Now one of them cowboys, he starts to draw. I grabbed the bottle, slapped him on the jaw. I shot another, he won't grow old. In the confusion, Uncle grabbed the gold, and he hightailed it on down to Mexico. Now God bless cowhands, yes, and God bless gold. Bless my uncle, rest his soul. He taught me well everything I know. Taught me so well, well I grabbed the gold, and I left him lying by the side of the road. And I left him dying by the side of the road.
I appreciate it very much getting to play with Dave and Kathy now and then. They're wonderful musicians. And I also appreciate the old-time fiddlers groups where I picked up these fiddle tunes. Howard Marshall was running one out at the Historical Museum, and they used to come down to Chez, and you have the old fiddlers down here quite a bit. Taylor and Pete and a whole bunch of them. It was really great. So I didn't know I could play fiddle tunes, and I finally figured out that maybe I could play them. So I'm very happy and thankful to all those folks for helping me get along with the harmonica on them. Now we're going to close out with Liberty.